Okay, well, today I want to touch a little bit about. No, that sounds really wrong. No, today I want to talk a little bit about what in the modern world we consider personal growth and what it is that we should actually be considering when we're talking about personal growth. And really, a lot of the time that we're talking about personal growth, we are thinking advancements in terms of knowledge, in terms of position at work, or even just getting into work, and competition therein. And to me, that's wrong. That's just wrong because personal growth has nothing to do with how well off you are compared to the average person in society, but more just how well you are compared to yourself, say, a day ago, a week ago, a month, a year, 10 years. And by and a lot of us do measure that worth depending on those external factors we talked about before, whether it's work, whether it's net worth, or the amount of followers on social media, or how cool your friends think you are when you manage to hack something completely boring. So none of that is, in my view at least, what the phrase personal growth should be about. To me, that is much more about this internal recognition and an internal, shall we say, an internal maturation that where one starts to realize the things that are most important to oneself. So that includes, things like mental health. That includes things like physical health. Where do you want to, like, what do you take joy in doing? And I don't mean in the more prosaic Marie Kondo way, but what do you take joy in doing? And how can that be part of your life? Now, granted, of course, a lot of people take joy in doing things that aren't exactly good for them. Whether it's, certain addictions, either video games, certain narcotics, alcohol, videos, food, any of that can be bad. And so personal growth to me comes down to realizing what it is that is good for oneself and what it is that feels good for oneself. And the key really is between those two words, right? What is good and what feels good. And we often find that at that intersection, that question, that is where almost all of our personal struggles come in. It's and our personal struggle, and I know I'm detouring away from personal growth into internal struggle, but it's one of the most important parts, just simply because part of growing is being better than you were the day before. And as interesting as, or as stupid as it might sound, that is really all there is to it, right? And so how can we be better than the day we were before? Well, for the vast majority of us as humans, it is our internal struggle. And how and I think a lot of, or rather almost everyone will agree that there will be days when we think that we're losing to ourselves, and that is just normal. That is very normal to lose. And so it really depends on the time scale that we're talking about. When we're talking about very small time scales, we should talk about very small victories. sorry, I've toured back to personal growth. So when we're talking about personal growth and um, our victories over ourselves in our internal struggle, we need to put the time perspective in, right? Like, if over a very short period of time, we should only be looking at very small victories. Now, for some people, that might mean getting out of their chair every hour. For others, it could be not eating so much pizza in a week. That might even be a medium term goal. And so a lot of us fail to realize that our goals, that our victories that we desire over ourselves in our internal struggle is framed in the wrong time frame. There's nothing wrong with the victory that we want. It just unfortunately happens to be that we think, or we don't have the concept of the time, and so therefore we are discouraged because we want this victory and we thought we were actively working towards this victory, but nothing has happened. And so my counsel had always been, when this subject was brought up, had always been something slightly different, and that is actually taking another detour. I tend to ask, how organized is your mind? How organized is your life? And that is, to me, sort of the more important question, because without that organization, how can we really have the fundamentals to understand our internal struggle, to understand the time frames in that internal struggle, or our victories to ourselves, right? Like, if all one is capable of is getting up and plopping down in front of a chair to play some video games or to watch a whole bunch of videos, then does that really mean that your mind is organized enough to understand and to appreciate how long certain things take? And I would argue no. I would argue that a lot of people in our society have lost the ability to understand what time is. For a lot of them, time has stopped. And here I will take a fourth detour to talk just a little bit about mental maturity, because a lot of us aren't as mature as we like to hope. And by that, of course, I mean a lot of us are focused on our immediate needs, selfishly immediate needs, as opposed to a more long-term or a long-term or a more broader need, right? So colloquially, a lot of us are told to grow up, and that's really what I mean, that we're stuck in that teenage mindset. So back to an organized mind. We've talked a little bit about how, because we are not organized, we don't or we're not able to form a proper picture of the time that is or of the timeline necessary to achieve our personal internal victories. And so when I have friends that complain that they're not progressing, I tend to first try to help them organize. And as bureaucratic and boring as it might sound, it's such an important fundamental that without being organized, we cannot possibly create long-term victories that can contribute to our original goal, which was personal growth. So today I think I'll spend the rest of the time talking about mental organization, just because it is such an important and so lightly understood topic. Because we've all grown up to think that we know how to do tasks, when in fact a cursory look at civilization teaches us that no, we don't. There are so many people that don't know how to accomplish anything in their lives, that it's oh that's some heavy wind. Anyway, that it baffles me how they are able to even live, because that kind of day-to-day living, that kind of, I have no idea what I'm doing and where I'll be, but it's okay. You know, I have enough income to cover this month's rent, and that is apparently that is apparently a status quo that can be maintained for longer than a few weeks, and that baffles me, because that suggests to me that there is no organization, and there is no that the disconnect between the goals of this person and what they're capable of is so big that they don't even understand that there's a disconnect, and that's particularly interesting. So by first organizing our thought processes and understanding our minds, we can excuse me, hit the microphone there. By first understanding our thoughts and organizing our minds, we can then develop ourselves further. So how to organize? Well, there are a myriad books on the internet that will teach, but really the most important thing is just to make a list. I love lists. It might be because I'm an engineer by training, or not by training, but by education, that everything comes down sooner or later to list form. And and it makes it very easy, once you have a list of things that are important, to then make sublists in that list. And you keep going and you keep going, and you make levels and levels of things that are important underneath each big heading, that it becomes a very complete view of what you desire and who you are as a person. And then you go ahead and cross out 90% of it. And that's the most important part, because only by limiting our choice can we then focus on anything. So to give an example, or a pseudo example, start by listing 3 things. I want to go to college. I want to be very successful be in a very successful relationship, and I want to learn some tennis, right? And then under each of those headings, you can, or I can, in this case, I can start listing sub goals. So I want to go to college. Well, I want to go to college for, let's say, the biologies. I want to become a doctor. And so what do I need to become a doctor? Well, I need some biology. I need some basic maths. And do I have any of that? Oops. Well, there we go. We gotta do some of that. So that gets listed under college. And then, you go further and further. What is required for the math courses? Well, maybe graduating high school. Well, oops, let's go back and do that. And then so on. And so for the next topic, I want to be in a successful relationship. Well, that's a whole topic in and of itself. And third, whatever was the third one? Tennis. That's right. Oh, I need a tennis racket, blah, blah, blah. All of these things. And once these things are assembled, cross them all out. Fuck it. No, pretend I didn't say that word. That's a bad word. Forget it. Cross them all out. Because only when you're crossing stuff out do the most important ones stand out to you. Perhaps as you're crossing out becoming a doctor, you find that I really, really like biology. Well, maybe then becoming a doctor wasn't the main goal. Maybe learning more about human biology was the main goal. Well, in that case, how about we explore alternatives, such as being a physiologist? Or let's go even crazier. Let's do some primary research in biology. So instead of going to college with the goal of becoming a doctor, why can't we go to college with the goal of becoming a researcher in biology? Well, that's suddenly gives more clarity to life. But I don't actually want to talk too much about examples per se. That is the example. I chose that particular example because it is the one that appeals to me most. Because I like crossing things out. I think we all like crossing things out. That's why to-do lists sometimes become addictive, and people write too many to-dos and then spend so much time organizing their to-dos that they forget that they actually have to do them. But anyway, all besides the point now. All besides the point now. We want to go back to our main topic today, which is personal growth, right? So what even is personal growth? I think I just spent 10 minutes and various amounts of detours trying to talk around what personal growth is. And coming back to this now, I think I can summarize it by saying that personal growth is our ability to choose to do something that we think will make us better, will make tomorrow better than today. And I leave it very vague like that because to me personal growth isn't huge milestones. It's never about huge milestones. Nothing in life is about huge milestones because no huge milestone can be accomplished with itself as focus. Always the biggest milestones have the hardest amount of work and the let's not say planning, but rather the aggregate of tons and tons and tons of little things that build up, right? Just like knowledge. Knowledge is not something that you gain over a day. Knowledge is not something you gain over a month, a year. Knowledge is something that builds up over 10 years. And if someone really puts their mind into doing something for 10 years, more likely than not, they will be successful. Perhaps not world famous, but do we really want to be world famous? That's totally other a totally different conversation. Yeah, no, I don't think it's necessary to define big milestones as personal growths. Big milestones can be consequences of personal growth 100%. They can be a goal that we're working towards when we're thinking about which parts of us we need to grow. But they shouldn't be the... Did I say goal earlier? Oops. Anyway, they shouldn't be the goal, but they can be a guide as to what we can work on. And to me, that's what personal growth is. It's the little bits and pieces of us that we're improving day to day to make ourselves a better person, either more efficient, either blah blah blah. I can't even word right now. But actually, I want to end this with a anecdote. It's extremely topical. Personal growth, doing the little bits of things one at a time, is actually why I'm doing this. Why I am speaking into a microphone and staring at at the spectrogram of my voice flowing by, because I'm taking this as an opportunity to both practice and to organize my thoughts by getting it out of my head and onto paper. Well, it takes a few steps to get it onto paper, but yes, it'll sooner or later get onto paper. And by doing that, I can then refer back to it in the future. And by doing so, my thought process becomes clearer, because I don't have to keep wording it back and forth in my brain about what I want to say, but I can just look at what I said and how I would improve saying that in the future. So yeah, like doing this for me it's both fun, as weird as that might sound, and relaxing, as weird as that might sound, and it helps me grow as a person. So it's the little things. I expect nothing out of this. I don't even expect views, because at the end of the day, I'm doing this for me and not um, as mean as it might sound, not for the listener per se. If the listener can uh, gain something out of my really ridiculous ramblings, I'm more than happy. That makes me very happy. But, you know, it's not the end goal. Yeah.